Hi, and welcome to Rise, Heal, and Grow. I'm Leah M. Hill. This show is a podcast production of Apollo Sunrise Center, which is a health, wellness, and spiritual retreat center in Merrimack, Massachusetts. On this show, we shine the light on those who nurture wellness and inspire positive change. My guest today is Randy Ross. He is a Boston-based writer, performer, and world traveler. Welcome, Randy.
Thanks, Leah. Good to be here.
Thanks for being on the show today. We have a lot to talk about because you're a very busy person and you have lots of things going on. But I want to first understand your background a little bit, where you came from and how you got here.
So I grew up just outside New York City, Westchester, and then I moved to Boston. But I grew up in the 70s in New York, and that actually influenced a lot of my work.
I imagine it did.
People talk about now being a tough time. The 70s was much worse.
Really?
Much worse. In the world itself, we had two of the biggest genocides since the Holocaust. You had Cambodia, more than 2 million people, almost a quarter of the population. Uganda, remember a guy named Idi Amin?
Yes.
It was over 500,000.
Wow.
We had a president that resigned. We had lost the Vietnam War. This country, the economy was a disaster. Unemployment,
Wow.
Interest rates over 10%. We had oil. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember, but we had a couple of oil crises where suddenly there was
remember that. Yes,
there was gas rationing.
Yes.
So if if your license plate ended in an odd number, you could only get gas on odd days.
That was amazing. It's hard to imagine that now, but that was life.
That was life.
Back then.
And it gets worse.
Oh, yeah.
It was the 1970s was also the heyday for serial killers.
Really?
A guy named Ted Bundy.
Oh, yes, that's right.
A guy named John Wayne Gacy in New York. We had Son of Sam, and he was caught right around the corner from my father's office in Yonkers.
Oh, my gosh.
So, this was a kind of a scary time.
I guess so.
Anxiety is kind of a theme in my work, and this is kind of how it where it originated.
So you started there with all of that going on in those times, and you ended up moving to Boston.
Yeah, I went to the University of Vermont.
Okay.
I graduated. Actually, I moved to Hawaii for 3 months, had a rotten time. So I have a rotten time in a lot of places.
Which we'll hear about soon.
Which we'll hear about.
I take some about that soon.
I take some responsibility for this. So I came to Boston. A lot of my friends from the University of Vermont were here. And also early 80s was a tough time looking for a job. Do you remember a book called What Color Is Your Parachute?
Yes, I do.
So that was my Bible. So I came to Boston. I went on 35 different informational interviews. I turned up 2 jobs and got one of them. But this took 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
It was still the economy was still bad in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And then things just took off in Boston.
Right. And you ended up at PC World.
I eventually ended up at PC World, and I was there for 17 years.
Wow.
It was a great place to work.
You were the executive editor.
I was one of several.
One of the executive.
Yeah, one of several executive editors.
So wow, so that's quite a journey. I mean, no wonder you have so much to write about because you had this, this experience growing up in New York with all that going on, and then in the '80s in Boston, and then PC World, which is like a sort of a different direction.
It was nice to have a stable job because when I first came to Boston, I got laid off 3 times in 5 years.
Yeah.
Magazines. I was starting at magazines.
Everywhere.
Yeah, magazines were just shutting down. You'd work there for a year, and then somebody would come in and say, "Sorry, you guys are all out of work."
Yeah.
So
that's scary. So then you ended up making another big change, not just from moving from New York to Boston and being one of the executive editors at PC World, but then you left all that. Or ended up leaving all that.
I got laid off.
You got laid off.
I would not have left. 2007, I got laid off.
But then you made a big career turn into writing fiction, humor, and even erotica too.
Yep.
Wow.
So I got laid off in 2007.
Okay.
So I've been working for corporate, for 17 years. I did not want to look for another job. And I got another book. I went to the bookstore and I saw, these travel guidebooks. Yeah. And I got a couple of them that's how to plan a trip around the world, and they make it sound easy and fun.
Of course.
So I booked a 4-month trip around the world. I'd never done much traveling before.
Oh my gosh.
So that's why it was a little challenging.
Right. But that sparked this book right here, which I'll show, is God Bless Cambodia. This is your first book, right?
Yes.
And this is the story. It's a novel, but based on your experiences?
It's inspired loosely by actual events.
By actual events. Okay. And it's about this 4-month trip, basically to many different countries.
Yes. The main character is my alter ego.
Mm-hmm. Who also is named Randy, right?
Yes. And actually, the reason I kept that name is in certain British countries, the name Randy has another meaning.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to keep that because that was a theme for the book.
All right. I'll have to look that up, what that means.
Okay. Well, we're on public television.
Yeah, all right.
We won't go there. We're not going there.
I'm getting the hint here. Okay, so first of all, I did read this book because you were one of the authors at Voices of the Valley, which is a book festival, an annual book festival that we hosted at Apollo Sunrise Center, and you were one of the authors and speakers, panel speakers that weekend too.
That was a great time.
Oh,
that was a lot of fun.
Thank you. So I bought the book there and I read it and I really enjoyed it. I have to say, I laughed. But it's also deep to it. It has some depth to it too. It's not just a comedy book, and it's not just about this, fumbling guy that is looking for love in all the wrong places. Maybe if I can summarize it that way. But it is about a solo trip around the world, which is a pretty big risk to take, I'd say.
It's traveling by yourself can be very lonely, and that's kind of a theme in my books is characters dealing with loneliness. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting before I went on the trip, again, I hadn't done much traveling. So I had a friend of a friend who used to travel he was a house painter. Oh. So for 6 months out of every year, he would just go travel by himself. Oh. And I met this guy for a drink. I said, okay, what's this going to be like?
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's going to be cyclical. You're going to have days where you're having a great time, and within 24 hours, it could be totally different. And there'll be days when you're having a rotten time. Just remember that in 24 hours, it could be totally different. So I was expecting ups and downs, and I got plenty of ups and downs.
You got that from what I read, too. And some of the experiences you had, like I said, some of them are very funny, but some of them really go into the depth of the loneliness that this character, which is your alter ego, experienced on this trip, which I thought was very, emotional. I think it brings up a lot of emotions for a lot of people that might be experiencing loneliness or experiencing anxiety, or even saying, why should I do something that I don't really want to do, which is kind of what you did. It's kind of like you're a homebody, right?
Yeah, had not done much traveling.
Never done anything like that.
I'd never been to a developing country. I'd never been to Southeast Asia.
Wow. Yes, and it wasn't like going to Hawaii, and it wasn't like going to...
No, and it wasn't this was, I've been on, I had gone on 1 or 2 week vacations. If you're having a rotten time, it's going to end.
Right.
I mean, this was 4 months. And before the trip, I bragged to all my friends, I'm not worried about looking for a job. I'm going to take this trip around the world. And after 2 weeks, I was down in Venezuela. And I was like, this is awful. I want to go home. But I'd already bragged to everybody. I'd already spent all this money on tickets. So I had to finish it.
Yeah, but you did it.
Yeah,
you got through it.
And it got better.
And it did get better.
And then it got worse. It's up and down.
I know. And I remember some of the experiences you talked about in the book that was like staying in these hostels. And I remember the rats. There was something about rats and... some were alive and some were dead, and there were all kinds of other experiences like that.
And again, because this is fiction, some of that stuff's a little
off, but
a little and made up. But the actual, so the show that I'm going to be doing for you, is my actual trip. On that trip there was a so the guidebooks in certain countries, guidebooks recommend for inexpensive accommodations, they recommend staying in youth hostels.
Yeah.
But in Southeast Asia, they recommend something called a guest house.
Oh.
So when you hear the term guest house, I was picturing
nice.
a bed and breakfast in Vermont, blueberry pancakes and Persian rugs.
Exactly.
And I check into a place that was recommended by the Lonely Planet in Phnom Penh, and there's a big rat running around in the lobby.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
That was.
I can't handle it.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, that was.
So that part of the story was true. about
that was
rat
that was
running
that was
through
true.
Oh my
Running through the
gosh.
lobby, yeah.
Now we know what a guest house is in certain parts of the
Yes,
world.
in Southeast Asia,
Oh
a
my
guest house is
gosh.
not Vermont.
Yes. Well, you did also turn this book into the show called Tales of a Reluctant World Traveler, which I'll hold up the flyer for that if anybody can see it. It's a comedy of adventure and self-discovery. So it is a comedy show. It's your one-man show. And it's also going to be at Apollo Sunrise Center in Merrimack, Massachusetts, on March 28th at 6 p.m. You can get tickets online now for $20 or $30 at the door. And Randy will perform his show that's based on the book. So you can read the book to get the backstory, and you can come and meet Randy in person and watch the show as well on March 28th, 2026. So let's talk a little bit more about, this book and your experiences. I mean, this sounds like you had a terrible time. You couldn't wait to get home, but you did stick with it.
I did stick with it, yes.
Through it. And you turned it into not just this one-man show, the Tales of a Reluctant World Traveler, but also a different one as well.
The first show I did was called The Chronic Singles Handbook.
Oh,
And actually, that was originally the title for the book,
Oh,
but
really?
the publisher that bought the book thought it was too negative.
Okay.
I had a bunch of titles.
Chronic Singles Handbook.
Yeah, they didn't
Okay.
like any of my titles. The other title was The Loneliest Planet.
Yep.
They're like, no, that's
Yeah.
too negative. So this was their title.
Okay.
And if you look at the cover, they've managed to offend everybody who's
Yeah.
Buddhist, because you've got a
Yeah.
Buddha with a bottle of
With
liquor.
the bottle of,
But
alcohol
they
on
bought the
it.
book.
Right.
That's
Yep.
they get to do what they
But
want.
you get the whole story when you
Yep.
read it.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
definitely. And what I thought when I read it too is that it was interesting how this character, and I don't know how much of this is you as well, would find ways to cope with life, the anxiety and the loneliness, and by distraction, which many of us do, trying to distract ourselves one way or another. But when you're on this trip and you're alone all this time on this as a solo traveler, you really can't just come up with a lot of distractions to cope with anymore. I mean, that's what I thought was interesting.
Well, the magic solution, well, it's no
Yeah.
magic, but it's also the uncomfortable solution, is sitting with it.
Yeah.
I mean, personally,
with
what
yourself,
sitting
yeah.
with yourself, and what
Yeah.
I do personally is, when I start spinning and start spiraling down, I write. I have a journal.
Yep.
I write in my journal. I write gratitude. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. Actually, every writing session, I start off with a list of
that's great.
things I'm grateful for.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a big journaler too. I've always been a big journaler, and gratitude actually is what I do at night in the evening. I do it. I keep it next to my bed, and before I go to sleep, I write 3 to 5 things that happened that day that I'm grateful for. It really does help a little bit, but it gets you through the day.
With me, it stops the spinning. If I can get it out on paper, and actually, the origins for this book was I was on this trip.
Yeah.
At certain points, I was lonely and depressed. I started writing, and then I started writing a blog.
Oh.
So I kept the blog, and by the time I got home, I had 140 pages of
Oh, my goodness.
fetching and moaning and moaning and fetching. But around this time, there was another travel memoir called Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes.
And she had sold millions of books. And I was
Yes.
like, you know what? I work for a computer magazine. I can
You
write a
can
travel
do that.
memoir.
Wow.
And it turned out to be a little more difficult than I.
Yeah. Well, of course, it always looks easy, right?
Yeah, and
Until
also
you're
she's a very accomplished writer.
Yes.
I'm not in her league.
Well, that's all right. So you were traveling through these developing countries, not having any experience with this before. You weren't really, experienced traveler, like you said. You were more of a homebody, but that also must have shaped your writing and your voice in the writing as well. Just having those experiences.
It was a
Of
combination
thinking.
of. I mean, I'd
Yeah.
never seen a real poverty like this,
Yeah.
where you've got kids at 5-year-olds digging through the garbage at 4 a.m. You're coming out of a bar with a bunch of other hostile kids, and suddenly you see people digging through the trash. It's
Right.
a whole.
It's a wake-up call.
Wake
Yeah.
up call, and then it gets back to the gratitude. Like, okay, I picked good parents.
Definitely. Yeah. And that you grew up in a good place and you felt
Yes.
safe and
Yes,
all of that. Definitely.
I'd never seen anything like this. This was.
Right. So that's got to affect you at a very deep level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in addition to, what you talk about in this theme, not only in the show, it sounds like that's coming up, and the book is about, not just the loneliness, but just the being uncomfortable with yourself. Like it's like loneliness is one thing of wanting to be around other people, wanting the interaction, but then to be by yourself and then face the discomfort of that and the anxiety that it brings up.
Yes. Is this ever going to end?
Yeah, that's what I imagine. That's what you were wondering.
Yeah. And also one of the other things about the trip, you and I were discussing this before, is I found this thing called counterphobia. I don't know if this is an actual psychological term.
Counterphobia.
Counterphobia.
Okay.
It's in the Enneagram. It's one of the personalities. Yes. And counterphobia is how certain people are drawn to things that make them really uncomfortable. And one of my fears has always been heights. So during the trip, I'm in the middle of this anxiety thing, and I'm like, okay, maybe we'll just deal with our fear of heights, and we're going to go bungee jumping. So I went bungee jumping.
But you did. There's a picture of you right on the flyer here.
Yeah, that's me bungee jumping.
And you went 3 times.
I went 3 times. It didn't cure it at all. It was not helpful.
But you did it.
I did
survived it.
Yeah. Well, I was staying at a youth hostel in South Africa the first time.
Okay.
And but no offense, but a bunch of 20-year-olds, and they're all going to go bungee jumping.
Yeah.
I was 48 at the time, but they didn't know exactly how old I was, but they knew I was not in their 20s.
Right.
So I was like, I'll go with you guys. So we get out on this platform, and everybody's terrified.
Oh, my gosh.
But nobody chickened out. So I was not going to.
And you couldn't at that point, right?
I couldn't at that. And I already paid for it, and I was already on the platform. But when I got time, so what they did is, they took everybody's name down, and you were in a certain order. So you see the person jump in front of you, and then then they call your name.
I cannot imagine this.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a little scary. And what they do is they bind up your feet with this cord so you can barely walk. So they push you out to the end of this platform.
Oh my God, I cannot imagine.
And then when I got out to the end, I was so scared.
Yeah.
Somebody put their hand under my chin and said, "Don't look down."
Don't look down.
And then they gave me a push.
Oh my gosh! Did you just scream the whole way down? Or
probably, yeah. I think I yelled, "Mommy!" Yeah, it was not pretty.
Yeah. Oh my God! But that was the first time, and then you went and did it again.
Yeah, I went and did it 2 more times, and it was the same thing. I was scared. I yelled for my mother, and then it was over.
Oh my gosh! So it doesn't cure. Taking these risks doesn't cure your fear.
No. Actually, I think it helps as far as managing fear.
Okay.
Because that's again personally, I think it's another thing about sitting with, instead of being reactive.
Yeah.
Kind of sitting with it and knowing that it's gonna peter out.
Right.
And it also similar with my performing, because I was always afraid of public speaking.
Oh my gosh.
For my job at PC World, I had to give talks to computer user groups.
Okay.
And what my boss did is he sent me to actually some kind of training for
like
for
a
public.
Dale Carnegie
Bingo,
or whatever.
that's exactly what
that
it
was the one. Yeah, I remember.
Did you do that?
I wasn't sent to it, but I knew
I
a
was
lot of
sent
people
to it.
that yeah.
And the first half of the class is like management and memory tricks, and the second half is everybody has to give a 1-minute speech.
Yes.
And there's like a break.
That's
so
great.
during the break period, everybody's walking around, they're sweating and they're talking to themselves, and and then we had to give our 1-minute speech. So it was different when I started doing my own material.
Yeah. Okay.
For some reason, it was harder and easier.
Because that's huge. First of all, you talk about taking risks. You do the bungee jumping, which scared you. You're on this trip, and then you develop a solo. Someone who has a fear of public speaking, a solo show, 1-man show to do that. You really put yourself into it. That is the definition of the counterphobe.
Well, it's an anxiety thing. It's not nothing to be proud of, but it's an anxiety reaction. Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed. That's impressive. Okay. I know that even though I've done a lot of public speaking, I could always talk about other things, but then talking about myself, then it was like, ooh, that was a whole big difference, But if I had to go out and talk about your book or talk about you, I had no trouble doing that in front of people. But then when it was something personal, it was totally different. Yeah. But you just went ahead and did that and just didn't let any of that fear stop you.
It didn't stop me, but it was the first.
It's still there.
It's still there, and the first. So I had a friend of mine who's actually a theater guy. I hired him, and he's the one that trained me for my shows, and he helped rewrite.
Good.
He's a theater guy. But the first time I did the show, I was so scared. Because it was almost an hour of memorized material. It was the Chronic Singles Handbook, my first show.
Yeah.
I was in Portland, Maine.
Oh my gosh.
And I came out, I was so scared, I was seeing spots, and there was a point halfway through the show where I just blanked.
Wow.
And when you blank like that, I don't know if you've done this, but if you blank it, it seems like it's an hour.
Yes,
I mean, it's only
it.
a couple of seconds. But I blanked, and it took me a while to calm down, and then I just picked up. I picked up wherever I could remember in the show, because I must have skipped like half of it.
Right.
But I picked it up.
Then you got it.
Yeah. Then started the assembly line again. I finished it, and that was.
Well, good for you.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive, though, that you keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's
well,
great.
I've gotten better.
Yeah, well,
that was 10 years ago. Yeah, it was 10 years ago. I got better.
So let's talk about your other book. You wrote another book, which I have not read. I did read the God Bless Cambodia. I have not read The Squid and the Spaceman, which I'll show here. So this is a dysfunctional love story.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit more about that? I know you don't want to tell too much.
I don't want to tell too much, but so the psychological underpinning for this book is something called attachment theory.
Okay.
And attachment theory describes how you connect with other people, particularly in romantic relationships. And there's two very negative attachment styles.
Okay.
And one of them is the spaceman, who needs a lot of personal space.
Yeah.
And the other one is the squid, which is someone that's more needy and anxious. So when the two of them get into a relationship, it's a little challenging, and this is how they try and
that's the dysfunction.
This is how they try and work through it.
Right. All right.
So that's the plot. Are they going to stay together? Are they not going to stay together?
Yeah.
And the learning that goes on in there.
Right. And so the theme of this is about how much can we really change for someone we love?
That's
the theme. Okay.
That's the theme. And one of the key things there is a therapist once said to me, the goal in therapy is not to turn an apple into a banana, it's to make it a better apple.
Okay.
And that's a theme in the book. I'm not going to get into too much, but that's kind of a theme in the book as far as change and how much you can change and what you really want to change.
Right. Because I think we all know people, or maybe we've been in relationships where there really has been some love, between the two people that love each other, maybe loved each other very deeply at one time. I mean, I'm thinking about people that, after many years of really good marriages, and they end up in a very bitter divorce where they end up hating each other. It's like, I don't know, it makes me think about that. Like, if one of them or both of them just changed, how much were they willing to change a little bit to keep that together?
And it's also how much can you change? Because a lot of your personality is formed by age 5.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah, you could. I'm not going to give it away.
Right, right. But how much can you change? That's the question. It's not even so much, are you willing?
Well, that's the other thing. Yes.
And how important is the relationship to you to be willing to do that? Or versus the loneliness of being alone, and then trying to find the relationship. So.
And that's actually, my new show, the one that I'm working on, is based on the book, and it's all about attachment theory and loneliness. And actually, there was a study by the Surgeon General that came out a couple of years ago about loneliness. I don't know if you've seen this.
I don't think so.
And in the study, the Surgeon General was claiming that people that are lonely, are 50% more likely to die prematurely.
Oh,
it's
wow.
like the equivalent of smoking 10 cigarettes a day or being morbidly obese.
Right.
And so I continued my research, and I found a bunch of other experts that said, no.
That's not true.
Having solitude is very important, especially for creative people. And this is one psychiatrist that wrote a whole book where he mentions all these famous people that either never got married, never had a romantic relationship, or needed large periods of time by themselves to develop their art or their philosophy. Right. So Kant, Kafka, Goya, Wittgenstein, Beatrix Potter. He lists a whole list. And he was a famous psychiatrist. Right. Okay, so we got the Surgeon General over here. We got we got both sides of the story. And
then you got to pick which one
you
want to go
which
with.
Resonates.
Oh, great. Fascinating. All right. Well, when you develop your new show, let me know. We can have you back at Apollo Sunrise Center. All right. And you're working on another book as well. This is How We Disappear?
Third novel, yeah.
Third novel. Okay. Do you want to tell a little bit about what that's going to be about?
Yeah, and that gets back to what we were discussing earlier. So it's a coming-of-age story in the darkest of all decades, the 1970s.
Yeah.
So we've got, drug overdoses, we've got mental hospital, we got all the good stuff. And, in the background, there's the serial killers and and the economy and all the other stuff.
Right. And so in the midst of all this, it is supposed to be funny and light too, and you're supposed to enjoy it at the same time. And so these performances that you're doing that are based on, and drawn from this book, the 2 books you've written, the one that's probably the one that's coming out too. You've done more than 30 of these shows across the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. as well. So what is it that keeps drawing you back? I mean, there must be something in these solo performances that, I'm sure you have many challenges. I mean, just standing up on stage is a challenge by yourself. Yes. But what is it that's rewarding?
I'm counterphobic.
Yeah, but there must be something rewarding to you. There must be something,
if you get a good audience and they're laughing, it's fabulous. It's also a way that I promote my book, and I've had some excruciating. I've done a 1-hour one-man show for one person. I did the Chicago Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
And I come out on stage, I'm ready to do my show, and I look in the audience, and there's only one person there.
Oh, no.
So I did a whole hour of show and comedy for this one person, but I got through it, and a professional, that's what you do. So
you
get a little better, I get more training, and that's satisfying as well.
Yeah, so it's really, like you said, the reward of the reaction from the audience, the laughter, that kind of excitement. I can imagine how that's like a high. That's like a natural high.
Yeah.
That's like, oh wow, okay, I'm doing something.
And you get good if you get good reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, I read all these celebrities that never look at the reviews.
Right.
I always look at my reviews.
You do.
I have to. Yeah.
You have to know.
Yeah, I have to. And a lot of them some of them are great, and some of them are not so great.
Yeah, but you got to take it all.
Yeah,
right?
and you got to show and you got to show up.
And you got to keep doing it.
Got to keep doing it.
Yes, because that is also one of your key themes about persistence in life.
Yep.
How it pays off. That it's not just quitting after the first bad experience of doing your solo show. It's about doing 30 of them and not knowing what to expect, right?
And that was with my first book. That was so I finished the book. I sent it out to 110 literary agents.
110
agents.
110.
7 of them requested the manuscript.
I don't know how you found them all. Wow.
Oh, yeah, it took a while.
Yeah.
But none of them wanted it. So the way the process works is if you want to get the big bucks, you need to get a big publisher, and you first need to get a literary agent. If you can't get a literary agent, you become your own literary agent, and you send the book out yourself to smaller publishers.
You're basically selling it yourself.
Yes.
As
So
opposed
smaller advances, smaller print runs.
Right.
So after the 110 agents said, take a hike, I sent it to 15 small presses. And this one out of Long Island called the Permanent Press. They bought the book.
They bought the book.
They bought the book.
Yeah. And so glad they did.
Yeah. So it took, it took a while.
But it does pay off. You're right. Definitely. I mean, I think when I wrote my book, I don't know how many years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and I had one literary agent, and then it was like, that was like the end of the world to me when she wasn't working on to sell it. I felt like she wasn't. Like it was her job to sell it, but I felt like she wasn't doing enough, and I was like, okay, I need to, and that's what I did too. I went in my own direction because I felt like, who could sell this book better than me? I'm the one who wrote it,
Yeah, it's publishing is a rough.
It's rough.
It's a rough business,
but it does pay off. And I'm sorry, you were going to say something else. I think I interrupted you. About that? No. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, that's the arc for my show, Tales of a Reluctant World Traveler.
Yes.
The first part is the journey on the trip, and the second part is the journey in publishing. And even after I got the publisher, it was still excruciating because I'm not going to get into too many details, but all kinds of stuff can still go wrong.
Right.
And especially if you're not a literary agent, so you don't know all the tricks and traps and ins and outs and stuff that can happen.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, I'm even more intrigued about this show too now because I want to hear about that too. And I wanted to share this quote that you also shared by Stephen Wright. If at first you don't succeed, then skydiving definitely isn't for you.
Yes.
Is that right? I don't know if I'm saying it the right way.
That's a model of persistence, I guess, on some level.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like... don't give up, because if it's something you're passionate about, I mean, look at it this way. You went from this career at PC World, and as much as you didn't want to let it go, you did end up letting it go, but look at what you've done with it. That maybe, who's to say if you ever would have done these books or that traveling?
I definitely wouldn't have. No, I would have stayed. I had a nice, comfy job. Yeah. I was not going any place.
You wouldn't have been out there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I needed the boot.
Book festivals and doing the shows and everything. Yeah. Right. So it's interesting, I think, how the the persistence keeps you going through all of this risk-taking that you do all the time. I mean, just writing a book is risk-taking. Writing something, whether it's a novel or it is a memoir or something about yourself, it's still risk-taking. But to be able to get up on that stage consistently and do a 1-hour show, that's huge.
Thank you. And I had a good role model because my father, through the 70s, I mean, he lost his business.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And then got it back. But every day he put on his tie and jacket and went to work.
Yeah.
So,
wow. So if anyone out there, like I'll say like me, like is not planning anytime soon to do bungee jumping off of a bridge in Venezuela.
if you're up there, you
I don't know
if you already paid the money, you would do it too. You would do it too. I think you would too. Yes, I think you would too.
But is there any, do you have any advice from all of this that you've done, for someone who?
Well, the persistence thing. I mean, the main thing, especially writing, is butt in the seats.
Yeah,
you gotta sit down. I'm not big on people that's I got writer's block. I'm not sure that's an actual affliction.
Really?
When I have problems, when I'm stuck, I sit. Even if I spend the 3 or 4 hours just writing in my journal, eventually it gets. I mean, you got to keep. You got to keep
so
keep
that's
showing.
The key is that you keep doing it,
You
even
keep
if you're
showing
just
up.
journal writing and it's not really working on your
It's like
work.
exercising.
Yeah.
You got to keep working
You just keep doing it.
Keep working the muscle.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, Randy, this was great. I'm so glad you came on the show today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for making the trip up here, too. I know, it's kind of a ride for you. But thank you. And before we go, just share with everybody how to connect with you or how to find your books and where to buy your books.
My books are up on Amazon, and my website is randyrossmedia.com.
RandyRossMedia.com. Perfect. All right. Thank you. And thank you, all of you who are watching or listening here today on Rise, Heal, and Grow with Leah M. Hill. Please join us again next time. We have lots of episodes coming up. And don't forget, if you want to meet Randy in person, come to Apollo Sunrise Center in Merrimack, Massachusetts on March 28th. $20 online, $30 at the door. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right.